Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, upgrading windows to help curb appeal and keep homes efficient. More at callmosby.com.
From the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Monday, May 19th. I'm Rachel Lippman. It's been about 60 hours since a tornado touched down in the St. Louis region on Friday, and we're getting an even clearer picture of the scope of the disaster. The National Weather Service says the twister was on the ground for nearly 23 miles after it touched down in Clayton, traveling at speeds of up to 55 miles per hour. Mayor Kara Spencer said on Sunday that the storm caused at least $1 billion worth of damage in the city of St. Louis. At least 4,400 buildings there sustained some kind of damage. Ameren says nearly 300 of its poles are down. More than a dozen St. Louis public schools buildings were among those damaged in the storm. Students who attend some of the schools will be rerouted to others, but the district cannot provide transportation because its bus depot was also hit. The Clayton School District was entirely closed on Monday, though sports practices went on at alternate sites. 2 schools in the University City School District were also closed. All eyes now are on a forecasted round of storms that could enter the area starting this afternoon. The risk is lower than it was on Friday, but many homes and businesses may not be stable enough to endure strong winds. Others are without roofs or windows, leaving belongings exposed to the elements. City Emergency Management Commissioner Sarah Russell says people whose homes were damaged need to have a place to go to safety.
Whether it's your local church or other facility in the community, a loved one's house, making sure that you have somewhere to quickly take shelter.
As St. Louisans pick up the pieces, there are still many unresolved issues. Our reporters were out on the ground this weekend. We'll start with St. Louis Public Radio's Kate Grumke.
In the days after the storm, St. Louis turned out to help. You could really see that on a stretch of Lee Avenue in the O'Fallon neighborhood in North City. At the corner of Lee and Fair Avenues, a group is grilling hot dogs and hamburgers.
The grill is hot, the grill is hot.
DeAndre Farmer of Kirkwood used to live in this neighborhood.
We're just a group of citizens that want to help the community out. We gotta help each other, protect each other, so we just got out here and put our best foot forward.
Farther down the street, Ashley Hurst and her family are using chainsaws to cut up a huge tree blocking the road. They own a lawn care business and brought their equipment.
We didn't know where to start. We just we got to start somewhere because it's so many trees everywhere. So we just starting here because I see a lot of people going in and out and they can't get past. So we just decided to do this tree.
Darnell Roy stands near a building on Lee whose front is knocked out, leaving a pile of red bricks on the ground.
Right now, it looked like a hurricane hit it. Like if you never saw Mother Nature's worst, this is what it looks like. I mean, like houses collapsed, trees that's been around forever, fell over, power lines. Our corner store can't even open because the roof gone.
Roy says there's nowhere to put all of the debris, and he says they could use more help.
If you're not working, your family, okay, come down and help us because we need all the helping hands. And I feel like that's what St. Louis is about coming together when things like this and making it happen.
The National Weather Service says a tornado seems to have touched down near Clayton, then cut a path northwest through Forest Park, the Central West End, then North City into Illinois. At times, the Weather Service says the tornado was up to a mile wide. As the region turns to recovery, there are still many questions that need answers. In North St. Louis, I'm Kate Grumke.
And I'm Brian Munoz. One outstanding question is what happened to the city sirens? Dozens of social media commenters say they did not hear them during Friday's twister. Mayor Kara Spencer says her administration is taking the issue seriously.
We're conducting internal review, and we'll have some answers on Tuesday. I believe the report is due on that. But it is important to understand what happened, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
While the city reviews emergency protocols, thousands of residents will file insurance claims. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley chairs a subcommittee on disaster management. He is concerned that insurers intentionally delay and underpay claimants. Hawley is urging the CEOs of major insurance companies to process claims swiftly. That's also a concern for 14th Ward Alderman Rasheen Aldridge, who represents much of historically underserved North St. Louis.
It's heartbreaking because I know a lot of people probably also may not have insurance, and the rebuild, even if they had insurance or FEMA or whatever's going to happen, the rebuild is not going to happen overnight.
It's also too soon to tell if the Trump administration's reported cuts to FEMA may affect the response. Big white utility trucks roll down Penrose Avenue as crews spread out across the O'Fallon neighborhood in North St. Louis. It was one of the area's hardest hit. And it's here, early Sunday morning, where Dolly Baskin and her family are cleaning debris outside their home.
Yeah, man, turn that board over right there. It got nails in it. That board right there.
When she got back to her crumbling brick house after the tornado blew through, all she could do was fall to her knees and cry. The same night, Baskin put in a claim with her insurance company, and she and her family were put up in a hotel. In the meantime, she's trying to pick up the pieces.
I'm being patient because I'm not the only one that's going through this devastation. So long as I have somewhere to go lay my head, I know it's going to take a little bit. I just have to be patient, keep my head up, and put it in God's hand right now.
Baskin says she doesn't know how she'll be able to rebuild what's taken so long to put together. Many St. Louisans are wondering the same thing. In North St. Louis, I'm Brian Munoz, St. Louis Public Radio.
There is more coverage of the tornado, including information about how you can provide or get help at stlpr.org. Before the storm touched down on Friday, there were moments of joy and remembrance for one St. Louis area family. U.S. Army Corporal Frederick Carino went missing during the Korean War nearly 75 years ago. Carino's family welcomed home his remains with a funeral service in his honor. As St. Louis Public Radio's Andrea Henderson reports, veterans say connecting an unknown soldier to their family makes them proud to have served.
A few members of the Florissant chapter of Veterans of Foreign Wars sat proudly in the back of Shepherd Funeral Chapel as they paid their respects to Corporal Carino during his repatriation service. Navy veteran John Vestrade says welcoming Carino home gives veterans a sense of pride.
Pride that we have served. We feel privileged and we feel honored.
Army Chaplain John Ballard says honoring Carino gives him dignity, even though it's decades later.
It's never too late to render honors and to remember the fallen and the sacrifice they made.
I'm Andrea Henderson, St. Louis Public Radio.
Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency made significant staff and funding cuts at AmeriCorps last month. The DOGE cuts have resulted in thousands of AmeriCorps members losing their positions. That's according to America's Service Commissions, a national association of state commissions that run AmeriCorps programs. Chief Engagement Officer Rachel Bruns says the cuts have disproportionately impacted rural communities.
Oftentimes, federal resources can be challenging for rural communities to access, yet AmeriCorps is one of those rare federal programs that has the ability to access rural communities.
In the Midwest and Great Plains, many of the members were doing environmental and conservation work at nature preserves and in educational programs. A Carondelet community garden is looking for an artist to create a mural that will be a focal point of the garden. St. Louis Public Radio's Chad Davis reports.
The selected artist will receive $2,000 from the Carondelet Food Patch to complete the project and will paint the mural on a large shipping container. St. Louis and St. Louis County artists are eligible for the project, and Carondelet area artists will be given priority. Ivy March is a co-leader of the Carondelet Food Patch. She says the mural will give the garden a colorful look.
We just want it to be a place that feels really welcoming and where people feel safe and nourished, and I think that both food and art does that.
Interested artists can email the Food Patch to apply. Applications are due June 30th. The steering committee will select an artist by the end of July. I'm Chad Davis, St. Louis Public Radio.
Springtime in St. Louis means mushroom hunters head to the woods. They're typically looking for morels. But as St. Louis Public Radio's Kate Grumke reports, there are also Midwesterners who are working on finding a way to farm the elusive mushroom.
Inside the grow room at Mushrooms Naturally in O'Fallon, Missouri, it's always spring, or at least something like spring.
So lots of light, fresh air, and humidity, which basically recreates their ideal time of year for all of the varieties that we grow.
Owner JT Gelano shows off shelves with logs covered in mushrooms that will soon be for sale.
So we have maitake, or our hen of the woods mushrooms. And then we have our king oyster mushrooms. We've got some shiitake mushrooms.
But one of the most iconic and lucrative Midwestern mushrooms can't be found in this room, the morel. Instead, Gelano heads into a wooded area behind his farm, crossing a small creek and ducking under honeysuckle. Morels are a stemmed mushroom with a pitted, pointed cap. There are a lot of lookalikes out here. Walnut shells and limestone rocks, even leaves.
All of these things initially have that kind of honeycomb appearance that, if they're the right color, will really catch your eye.
Eventually, he finds what he's looking for.
Oh, here's one. See? Now look at this. This is the smallest one I've found yet.
A tiny morel mushroom, the size of Gelano's thumbnail. Mushrooms are getting more and more popular, and specialty mushroom farms like Gelano's are a growing trend in the U.S. Connor Youngerman is an extension support specialist at the Cornell Small Farms program.
Overall, mushroom production is increasing. Mushroom farmers, there are more and more of them.
But North America's wild morels have a life cycle that has proven tricky to replicate in a farm setting.
Morels are a mysterious and romantic and strange mushroom.
Still, some are trying. Wisconsin-based Field and Forest Products sells mushroom spawn and supplies to farmers and homegrowers. Lindsay Bender is Field and Forest's chief mycologist and research director. For about the past 5 years, the company has been selling morel spawn. But Bender says they can't guarantee customers will be successful.
We still call it a bag of hope, in that we can guarantee that it's good spawn that you're receiving, but the mystery of actually getting that to produce and successfully produce is still the challenge.
In China, farmers are successfully growing large amounts of black morels, and a Michigan state-led study found farmers could reliably grow morels in 5 Midwestern states. But the problem was profit. They didn't grow enough to make money. Field and Forest's Bender thinks in the next few years the Midwest will catch up.
So there are certainly some limitations to maybe the sustainability of the industry. But I think in terms of developing a more dependable method and culture, I think we're pretty close to that.
Even if Midwesterners could reliably farm the mushroom, many foragers would still head out to the woods. Nebraskan Tersh Kepler has been hunting morels for almost 60 years. He doesn't want to see the mushroom grown commercially.
I honestly don't think they're ever going to figure that one out, at least hopefully not in my lifetime. It's an adult Easter egg hunt is what it's like. I don't want that to ever change.
For Kepler and many other Midwesterners, this is a tradition that commercial cultivation won't end. I'm Kate Grumke, St. Louis Public Radio.
Harvest Public Media is a collaboration of public media newsrooms in the Midwest and Great Plains, including St. Louis Public Radio. Maria Altman of Harvest Public Media edited that feature. Music you hear on The Gateway is by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Rachel Littman, and from the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this has been The Gateway.